We need the jackets.
Another day we need the jackets, and it's actually colder to start off than yesterday, believe it or not. So it's colder, cloudy, and misty out there to start off, and we're going to have the cold peaking tomorrow morning, but then there will be a drier and brighter pattern in the days ahead. Right now, to get you out the door, we have a mixture of the 40s and 50s out there. It is 48 in Parkland. We have 51 in Sunrise, 49 in Fort Lauderdale and Oakland Park. And then we head into northern Miami-Dade, 40s and 50s here too. Miami down to 49. 50 in Miami Beach to 50 degrees in Coral Gables. Heading south, Kendall at 50, 49 in Pinecrest, Homestead at 51 with widespread 50s, at least into Big Pine Key at 58 degrees. And here's a look at the satellite imagery to show you that we have these pesky clouds still around, producing this fine mist out there, and it almost looks very foggy in some areas. Your day planner is calling for temperatures to remain in the 50s at least through noon and only climbing to about 60 degrees by 3 p.m. Your complete outlook and then what we can expect for the weekends coming up in 15 minutes. And across South Florida. And here's a look at satellite and radar put together to show you that there are thick clouds out there, but we have very little rain to talk about. But yes, these clouds will be producing a fine mist at least throughout today. Currently 49 in Pompano Beach. It's 49 in Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood at 51. We have 49 in Hialeah, 50 in Kendall, and then as we move south into Homestead, 51 degrees. And then we take a look at the Florida Keys. Most areas in the 50s. We have 52 in Isla Mirada, 58 in Big Pine Key, but it is 60 in Cudjoe Key and Key West. The wind increasing a tad overnight, anywhere between 8 to 16 miles per hour. So that is contributing to colder feels like temperatures, and it feels like the mid 40s across parts of the region, and feels like 45 in both Miami and Fort Lauderdale. So here's a look at what we can expect. Chilly start. It is going to be pretty much a cold day overall with this persistent northerly flow. The cold air actually peaks tomorrow morning when we experience more in the way of widespread 40s for lows, and then daytime highs should be a tad warmer in comparison to today, but it will be gusty at times, and at least it promises to be brighter over the weekend. I know it's been pretty gloomy looking the entire week. And as we move on into Sunday, high pressure will gradually start to break down, and as it slides into the western Atlantic Ocean, we get more of an onshore flow, and that should help temperatures bounce back, especially in the afternoon. But it should be partly sunny with less of a chill in the air. Overall looking absolutely gorgeous. But heading into tonight and tomorrow morning, the feels like temperatures will certainly be a factor. So if they feel more like the mid 40s this morning, they'll feel like the lower 40s tomorrow morning. Your boating forecast has a small craft advisory in effect. Northwest winds 10 to 20 knots. Frequent gusts up to 30 knots possible. Seas building 5 to 7 feet up to 9 feet in the Gulf Stream. For the Florida Keys, there's a small craft advisory in effect. Coastal waters are turning rough, and seas beyond the reef building 3 to 6 feet. We're going to have a high tide cycle happening this morning at 7:22 in Key West. So for today, highs in the upper 50s to low 60s. And then as we look at tonight, clouds clear. It'll get even colder across South Florida. The forecast though for Miami's 46, 45 in Fort Lauderdale, Key West at 54. Your extended outlook does have more sunshine over the weekend, back to typical early next week. And that's your 7 on 7.
All right, ahead on Today in Florida, a couple bringing back a unique souvenir from their vacation.
It's a discovery that can only be described as out of this world.
This morning to start things off. The cold air will actually peak tomorrow morning, so Tavares, take advantage of it. Drier, brighter conditions expected at least for the upcoming weekend, because it's been extremely gloomy across South Florida over the last few days. This morning, temperatures are in the 40s and 50s. We have 49 in Pompano, 48 in Parkland, 49 in Plantation, Dania Beach and Hollywood at 51, and then in northern Miami-Dade, 40s and 50s here too. Hialeah 49, Opelika, Coral Gables and the Grove at 49. So here's a look at Southern Dade, South Miami, 49 degrees, and then the Keys, most of you in the 50s. We have 53 in Isla Mirada. Then you take a look at Marathon, a tad warmer at 58 degrees. But satellite imagery showing these pesky clouds still lingering. They're low clouds, so it's going to look foggy with a little mist outside. And your day planner's calling for it to be a chilly day because high temperatures alone will only reach 60 degrees. Your full forecast coming up in a few minutes.
Time now for Fast Track Traffic.
Good morning, South Florida. We are starting out right now in Miami-Dade on the Palmetto Expressway. We've got some pretty heavy.
Don't touch them because as soon as the sun comes out, especially heading into tomorrow, they'll start to move around once again. In South Florida, we have a deep chill in the air this morning. There's a lot of cloud cover, low cloud, so it almost looks like fog, but it's also misty as well. So we're going to add this mist, the cold air all together. And here's a look at what you can expect if you're heading outside. It is 49 in Pompano Beach and Fort Lauderdale, 51 in Hollywood, 49 in Hialeah and Miami, 50 degrees in Kendall, and for you in Homestead, down to 51. And around the Florida Keys, temperature readings here, 50s and 60s. Key Largo at 51. Then you move into Key West, it's at 60 degrees. We have a stronger breeze flowing in out of the northwest, anywhere between 8 to 16 miles per hour. So that's contributing to feels like temperatures that are colder in the mid 40s across the Miami-Dade and Broward. So right now it feels like 45 in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. So bundle up. We're going to have cloudy skies, but clearing late. And we'll have this persistent flow out of the north, allowing the cold air to continue to filter in across the region. But what about the clouds? We are expecting some clearing, but at least through midday it'll be cloudy with some fog and mist across South Florida. And then as we look ahead into tonight, it does seem like we're going to have clearing skies and we're going to see temperatures dropping a bit more. So heading into tomorrow, a lot brighter. That's when the cold peaks in the morning with widespread lows in the 40s. Feels like temperatures will be in the lower 40s. It'll be cool all day long, and then heading into our Sunday, temperatures start to moderate a little bit more with high pressure sliding into the Atlantic Ocean. So it'll be a pleasant day with less of a chill to start off. Your boating forecast has a small craft advisory in effect. Northwest winds today, 10 to 20 knots, frequent gusts up to 30 possible. Seas building 5 to 7 feet higher in the Gulf Stream. It's turning rough in the Keys, so there's also an advisory in effect for small craft operators. And at 7:22 this morning, that's the next high tide for Key West. So for today, we're going to have the AM being overcast, PM breaks of sun with temperatures staying in the 50s and 60s. And then tonight, clouds clear. It gets even colder with the forecast so for Miami at 46. Your extended outlook does call for sunshine over the weekend, and at least it'll be more pleasant and comfortable, seasonable next week. That's your 7 on 7 forecast.
Time now for Fast Track Traffic.
Good morning, South Florida. Taking a look right now in Miami-Dade on the Palmetto Expressway from our 122nd Street camera.
Gone down to 700 feet. So yes, we have some fog, some mist out there, and it's just going to look quite gloomy today overall. And then on top of that, we're going to add the chill in the air because it's actually colder at this time than it was yesterday. So we have a mix of the 40s and 50s. There's 48 degrees in Parkland, Fort Lauderdale, 49, same for Plantation, Davie, Dania Beach, Hollywood at 51. We also have 40s and 50s in Dade, Miami at 49. 49 in Miami Shores and North Miami to 49 at the Grove and South Miami. Heading south into Homestead, it's 51, 50s, 60s here in the Florida Keys, 52 in Isla Mirada to 58 in Cudjoe Key. Satellite imagery showing these thick clouds out there that will produce a fine mist, but it's going to be a cold day overall because the high temperature alone will be at 60. What about the weekend? We're going to take a closer look at that in my full forecast.
First here at 6, a deputy on the wrong side of the law.
He was arrested for trying to bring drugs onto a cruise ship.
Very cold, colder than yesterday. And right now it is 49 in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach to 50 in West Kendall. 51 in Pembroke Pines, but the top spot is Key West at 60 degrees. Elsewhere in the Keys, you're well into the 50s. And here's a look at the winds out of the northwest, 8 to 10 miles per hour, so somewhat higher than yesterday, and that's contributing to feels like temperatures across Broward and Miami-Dade to range in the mid 40s. Humidity levels are high, so with those clouds, we'll definitely see some mist. And here's a look at the radar. For the most part, it is quiet, but we do have those areas of fine mist drizzle that you will encounter throughout the day. Unfortunately, it stays cloudy the entire day pretty much, but later in the afternoon, early evening, there could be some breaks here and there, but the cold air will continue to flow in from the north, and it should peak tomorrow morning. Now, as far as the cloud forecast is concerned, at least through midday, it'll be cloudy with fog and mist. And then we take a look at the afternoon. We still have the clouds, maybe some pockets of sunshine for the Florida Keys. Late afternoon, early evening, as soon as the sun starts to set, that's when we can actually see breaks of sunshine. And then heading into the overnight with clear skies, that means tomorrow morning will be much colder. And we're looking at temperatures dropping down into the mid 40s, feeling like the lower 40s when you combine the wind. And throughout the day, temperatures will climb a little bit higher, but it should be generally cool day across South Florida on our Saturday, gusty at times. But the good news is that it will be brighter over the weekend overall. On Sunday, pleasant conditions expected, less of a chill with high pressure starting to slide into the western Atlantic Ocean. Small craft advisory in effect, northwest winds 10 to 20 knots, frequent gusts up to 30 possible. For the Florida Keys, there's a small craft advisory as well. Coastal waters are turning choppy, and we're going to get a high tide cycle at 7:22 for Key West. So for today, we're going to have an overcast morning. By the PM, breaks of sun with temperatures staying in the 50s and 60s today. And then heading into tonight, the forecast though for Miami at 46, 45 in Fort Lauderdale. So even colder. Get ready, South Florida, to sport the layers today into tomorrow. On Sunday, it looks picture perfect. Typical, comfortable conditions into next week. And that's your 7 on 7 forecast.
Time now for Fast Track Traffic.
Good morning, South Florida. Taking a look right now in Miami-Dade along I-95. Before the Golden Glades, it's the
moisture in the air, and it's a remain in place, and there's also that chill. It's just going to stay, and we're going to have these clouds hanging around until the sun decides to come up, and we'll definitely eventually see this starting to lift. But in the meantime, they're going to stay stuck at about 700 feet. So yes, it is a very low cloud base that we have in place, and on top of that, we're adding the chill, and in the 40s and 50s. It's 49 in Fort Lauderdale and Plantation, 51 in Dania Beach, including Hollywood and Davie. At this time, we have 40s and 50s, even in downtown Miami, up to 49. 49 in Miami Shores, including North Miami, Pinecrest, but 51 for you in Homestead, Florida Keys. For the most part in the 50s, Cudjoe Key and Key West at 60 degrees. We have 58 for you in Marathon. And here's a look at the cloud deck. It's here to stay throughout today, and it will be mostly cloudy. Temperatures are not going to warm up all that much. In fact, the forecast high only at 60. I'll be back with a whole lot more on your weekend weather coming up in a few minutes.
Time now for Fast Track Traffic.
Good morning, South Florida. We are seeing pretty heavy congestion on your Friday morning drive here on the Paul.
But also producing this fine mist. We're not expecting a lot of rain, just that fine mist continuing through a good portion of the day. And then on top of that, we're going to add the deep chill that South Florida is experiencing, and it's much colder to start off today. Currently 49 in Pompano Beach and Fort Lauderdale, 51 in Hollywood, 49 in Hialeah and downtown Miami to 50 in Kendall. Then we head into Homestead. It's 50 degrees with most areas in the Florida Keys in the 50s, 53 in Isla Mirada, Marathon 58, 60 Cudjoe Key and Key West with a stronger wind out of the northwest to start things off. So that is helping conditions feel colder, especially across Broward and Miami-Dade. It feels like the mid 40s 45 is the feels like temperature in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. So don't be surprised to see some cold stunned iguanas. So it is cloudy to start off once again. Skies are expected to clear very late. And then as we take a look at the big picture, this cold air will continue to flow in because of that northerly flow. Our forecast does call for cloudy conditions with some fog and mist continuing through the afternoon. And it does seem like maybe there will be some breaks in the clouds, especially around the Florida Keys heading into the 1-2 o'clock hour. But by late afternoon, breaks of sunshine as skies clear, and that will set the stage for colder readings overnight. So we get another push of cold air tonight, and temperatures will drop down this time around in the mid 40s, but they'll feel more like the lower 40s. And then as we look ahead into Sunday, turning more typical because the return of an onshore flow. But heading into next week, high temperatures will be in the mid to upper 70s, while lows will stay on the cool side with some upper 50s to low 60s. Your boating forecast has a small craft advisory in effect. Also for the Florida Keys, coastal waters here are rough, and next tide cycle will be high tide at 7:22 in Key West. So for today, the morning will be overcast. Look for PM breaks of sunshine. Temperature staying in the upper 50s to low 60s. So a chilly day overall. It gets even colder tonight. The cold will peak tomorrow morning, and then we start to gradually warm up, and it'll be very pleasant heading into next week. And that's your 7 on 7 forecast.
This is a Fast Track Alert.
Good morning, South Florida. We're taking a look along I-95 heading southbound here at Northwest 103rd Street.
And the cloud base is down to 600 feet now. So the clouds continue to go down, and this fog is also producing this fine mist that we're going to experience pretty much for a good portion of the day. So what happens is that we have moisture in the air, and it's matching up to the actual air temperature. So we have these clouds that develop on the ground, and because there hasn't been much fluctuations in temperature readings and in the moisture content in the air, they're just going to stay there, because typically when the sun comes out, these clouds start to lift and then dissipate. So they're going to hang around throughout today, and then on top of that, we're going to add the cold air, and we are in the 40s and 50s. It's currently 48 in Pompano Beach, Plantation, 51 in Davie and Dania Beach. And in Miami-Dade, northern portions, 40s, 50s too. We have 49 in Hialeah, downtown Miami, Coral Gables, checking in at 49, 50 in Miami Beach. Heading south, it is 50 in Cutler Bay and Homestead, Florida Keys for the most part in the 50s, 58 in Marathon, but Key Largo at 51. I'll be back with a whole lot more on your local forecast and what we can expect for the weekend coming up in a few minutes. Morning, South Florida. The clouds keep going down. The cloud base is down to about 600 feet. It actually looks like it went down further. So it's extremely foggy and misty out there, and it looks like it will stay pretty foggy for a good portion of the day. On top of that, it's also very cold. So it is 49 in Miami, West Kendall. Pompano Beach has gone down to 48. 50 in Pembroke Pines to 60 in Key West, with the wind out of the northwest 10 to 13 miles per hour, humidity high at 93%. So if your commute takes you around South Florida, for the most part, it's dry. You'll just have that fine mist, but please proceed with caution because visibility will be very poor in a lot of areas. It is cloudy. Skies are expected to clear late in the day, but we're going to continue with a northerly flow, allowing the chill to continue across South Florida. It should peak tomorrow morning. And as far as the cloud forecast is concerned, we'll stay on the cloudy side through a good portion of the day, at least through midday. And then we're going to notice maybe some clearing around parts of the Florida Keys in the 2-3 o'clock hour. Tonight, it does seem like clouds are going to be breaking, and that will allow temperature readings to get much colder tomorrow morning. So a lot of areas will be in the widespread mid 40s between Dade and Broward, and then we'll have a wind chill factor of feels like temperatures into the lower 50s. So don't be surprised that tomorrow morning we see some cold, stunned iguanas. So heading into the upcoming weekend, this is what we can expect. So it'll be chilly overall the entire day. High temperatures today will stay in the 50s to about 60 degrees. Tomorrow morning, it'll be gusty at times, but at least it'll be much brighter. And heading into Sunday, high pressure starts to break down and slide more into the western Atlantic Ocean. So that will provide for more of an onshore flow. It'll be partly sunny with less of a chill. Temperatures should be back to where we should be for this time of year heading into next week. Typical lows anywhere between 61 and 65. But we've had pretty much a shivering stretch across the region. And it does look like even though heading into next week, temperatures, at least in the morning hours, will run a few degrees below normal. So although it'll be nice and mild in the afternoons, we'll definitely have some cool mornings. Your boating forecast has a small craft advisory in effect through the Florida Keys. Coastal waters here turning choppy. And we're going to have a low tide cycle at 10 o'clock this morning in Fort Lauderdale. Highs today, upper 50s to low 60s. Tonight, even colder. And on your extended outlook, South Florida, we'll have some changes between Sunday as we transition to a more pleasant pattern. That's your 7 on 7 forecast.
Expect as we head into the weekend. Good morning, Viv.
Good morning, Ethan, Samantha, South Florida. Hopefully everyone's off to a great start. And the cloud base is down to 600 feet. And I believe the tallest building in downtown Miami, or at least the tallest high rise, is at about 869 feet. So we know that these clouds are really low and you can't even see the downtown Miami skyline. And these type of clouds do produce this fine mist. So you'll definitely experience that. So as you head out, you're also going to feel the chill in the air, and it's in the 40s and 50s, much colder to start off than yesterday. 48 in Fort Lauderdale, Plantation, 51 in Davie, the same for Dania Beach. And as far as northern Miami-Dade is concerned, at the airport 49 in basically Miami Shores, South Miami and the Grove. Heading south, 50 in Homestead, mostly in the 50s in the Keys, 58 degrees in Marathon, with satellite imagery confirming that there's a lot of clouds around, and it will stay mostly cloudy throughout the day and chilly too, because high temperatures are going to be in the 50s to about 60 degrees by 3 p.m. Your full forecast and what we can expect for the weekend is coming up in a few minutes.
This
Days, and it's been hard for them to lift because of the lack of sunshine, and also all of the ingredients are in place for them to stick around all the way through today, or at least a good portion of today. Satellite imagery and radar confirming just that. There's not rain out there to talk about, but the clouds will produce this fine mist, and we've had reports of that around parts of South Florida. It is chilly. 49 at Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport, 50 in Hollywood, 49 in Miami and Hialeah, including Kendall. And then as we move on into Homestead, it's 50 degrees. Marathon reporting 58, 60 in Key West, with a stronger wind flow out of the northwest. So that's actually helping conditions feel colder. And in Fort Lauderdale, it feels like 44 degrees. It feels like 45 in Miami. And I do believe tonight feels like temperatures will be in the low 40s. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some cold stunned iguanas. So cloudy skies, clearing late with a northerly flow continuing, and I do believe that the cold air will peak tomorrow morning. So at least through midday, these clouds will hold along with the fog and some mist, and it does seem like between 5-6 o'clock we'll see maybe some sunshine peeking through before the sun sets, and then once the clouds are out of the way, temperatures will get colder overnight. So another push of cold air will allow temperatures to tumble potentially into the widespread 40s. Tomorrow will be a cool day, and then high pressure starts to move into the Atlantic Ocean, so that should help our airflow shift off the ocean and temperatures warm up gradually. Your boating forecast has a small craft advisory in effect. Seas building 5 to 7 feet for the Florida Keys. Small craft advisory in place too here. With the next tide cycle, that'll be low tide at 10 a.m. for you in Fort Lauderdale. Highs today will stay chilly in the 50s and 60s. And then tonight, the forecast for Miami is 46, 45 in Fort Lauderdale, 54 in Key West. And your extended outlook South Florida calls for a perfect Sunday, really. Typical readings, more comfortable temperatures expected next week. The mornings will be cool, and in the afternoons, count on mild conditions. That's your 7 on 7 forecast.
Morning.
Good morning. Definitely chilly out there, but also pretty foggy. We've had these low clouds building in around town, and in downtown Miami, they've really come down and they're producing this fine mist. But aside from the foggy conditions today, we're going to deal with the cold weather. So you'll definitely need to layer up. It is 47 in Parkland, 51 in Dania Beach to 51 in Davie, 48 degrees in Plantation. And as we move on into northern Miami-Dade, 40s and 50s here too. 49 in North Miami and Miami Shores to 49 in Doral. Heading south, 50 degrees Cutler Bay and Homestead. The Redlands at 48, 52 Isla Mirada Marathon reporting 57. And we do have these clouds, stubborn clouds that are here to stay. Visibility has dropped significantly in Hialeah, less than 2 miles, less than 3 in Fort Lauderdale at this hour, with your day planner calling for possibly a break from the clouds, but late afternoon into early evening. Temperature wise, we're just not going to warm up all that much. The high temperature at 60 degrees. Your full forecast coming up in a few minutes. This the entire day. We've had these low clouds that have settled because of the moisture in the air, meaning up to the actual temperatures that have stayed pretty on the chilly side. So these clouds have nowhere to go until the sun decides to come out, and then eventually they'll start to lift. So in the meantime, it'll be cloudy, cold, and misty at times. But take a look at this stat. We have been stuck in the 40s and 50s for about 51 hours in Miami as of 8 o'clock this morning. So we've had pretty much a chilly stretch by our standards. It is 49 in Miami right now, West Kendall, 49 in Pompano to 48 in Fort Lauderdale to 60 degrees in Key West. We have a west-northwest wind, 8 to 10 miles per hour, humidity at 93%. So that's letting us know that there's moisture in the air, but not enough to produce significant rain. We're just going to have this mist around. And here's a look at the radar. For the most part, it is relatively quiet, other than the fact that these clouds are low. Some spots visibility may be poor, but we've been having this stream of moisture just above the ground. Later today, drier air is set to arrive by this evening, so that should push that moisture away, and we're going to see clearing skies for sure. It's looking a lot brighter for the upcoming weekend. The chill peaks tomorrow morning with widespread lows in the 40s. They're going to feel more like the lower 40s, and throughout the day it should be generally cool but with more sunshine. Heading into Sunday, we're going to have less of a chill because high pressure will start to break down, and as it pushes into the Atlantic, we're going to get more of an onshore flow. So that should help temperatures gradually warm up into next week. Your boating forecast has a small craft advisory in effect. Rip current risk remains present at area beaches, Biscayne Bay at a moderate chop, but it's turning rough in the Keys, so there's also an advisory here. With the next tide cycle, that'll be low tide, 10:09 in Miami, 10:26 in Key West. Highs today, upper 50s to low 60s. So it is still going to be a chilly day overall. Tonight, even colder. The forecast low for Miami at 46, 45 in Fort Lauderdale, 54 in Key West. And your extended outlook calls for more of a pleasant pattern heading into next week. That's your 7 on 7 forecast. Make it a great day. East through midday, South Florida, it'll be cloudy with some fog and mist. We're going to have this lingering through a good portion of the afternoon, and then we're going to have some clearing happening, and that will set the stage for colder conditions heading into the overnight. So the cold air will actually peak tomorrow morning with forecast lows in the widespread 40s, especially across Broward and Miami-Dade. It'll be a chilly one today, the entire day, with high temperatures in the upper 50s to about 60 degrees. And then tonight, temperatures tumble. It'll be gusty at times as well, so wind chill will be a factor as temperatures will feel more like the low 40s. So I wouldn't even be surprised this time around to see some cold stone iguanas. And as far as your forecast is concerned, we are going to warm up on Sunday as high pressure starts to break down. We get more of an onshore flow. Your boating forecast still not looking the best. There's a small craft advisory for our offshore waters. Northwest winds at 10 to 20 knots, frequent gusts up to 30 possible, turning rough in the Keys. We're going to get a low tide cycle happening in the 10 o'clock hour all around. Highs today upper 50s to low 60s in the Keys. And tonight, the forecast for Miami will be at 46, 45 in Fort Lauderdale. Your extended outlook calls for more sunshine over the weekend finally, and then next week should be pleasant. We'll have some cool mornings and mild afternoons. And that's your 7 on 7 forecast. It's chilly, cloudy out there, so make sure that you're prepared for it. The clouds that we have out there are low clouds producing a fine mist, and that's how it's going to be over the next several hours until we start to see some clearing, which we believe will happen late in the day. And here's a look at temperatures to get you out the door. 40s and 50s, 49 in Pompano Beach, 48 in Fort Lauderdale, 49, good morning to you over in Hialeah, 50 in Miami, 49 in Kendall, and around the Florida Keys, temperature readings have been in the 50s, 52 in Isla Mirada, 59 in Cajoquita, to 60 in Key West. The wind a little stronger this morning, so that has helped conditions feel colder around mainland South Florida. And in Fort Lauderdale, it feels like 44 degrees. And tomorrow it promises to get colder across the region as the chilly air peaks. Now, we aren't used to this type of weather across South Florida, so if you're planning on using space heaters, please practice fire safety. Keep them away from furniture and curtains. Protect yourself. Dress in layers, hats. Protect your pets by bringing them indoors. And if you have any sort of outdoor plants that may be sensitive to temperatures changes like this, make sure that you bring them inside. So cloudy to start off, skies clear late, and we're going to continue with this flow out of the north, providing for the cold air. It does look like by tomorrow morning, we'll be waking up into the mid 40s, feeling more like the low 40s. Throughout the day, it should be generally cool, but then high pressure breaks down over the second half of the weekend, and that should help more of an onshore flow return. So next week, highs will range in the mid to upper 70s. Lows will stay cool in the upper 50s to low 60s, but we'll take that pleasant pattern ahead with brighter skies. Small craft advisory in effect. Northwest winds 10 to 20 knots, frequent gusts up to 30 possible. Biscayne Bay at a moderate chop. Florida Keys turning rough. Seas beyond the reef building 3 to 6 feet. And the next tide cycle is going to be low tide in the 10 o'clock hour. So highs today, upper 50s to low 60s. Heading into tonight, colder. 46 is the forecast, so in Miami, 45 in Fort Lauderdale. And on your extended outlook, South Florida will have sunshine and pleasant readings into next week. And that's your 7 on 7 forecast.
Hey, Viv.
Hey there, and it's going to stay like this pretty much for a good portion of the day until skies clear. But this was time-lapse video from earlier this morning, and you could see the low clouds building in, and they're producing this fine mist. It's also cold on top of that, South Florida, and we've been in the 40s and 50s. Currently 49 in Plantation, 51 in Davie, Dania Beach, also in Hollywood, and then we move on into Miami-Dade County. We also have 40s here. Miami at 49, same for Hialeah, Miami Shores and North Miami. Heading south, 50 in Homestead, and around the Florida Keys, 50s here. And finally, Key West down to 59. You've been at 60 for a while. It is 58 in Cajoquita, 53 in Isla Mirada. We have these stubborn clouds, low clouds that will stick around. Unfortunately, it'll reduce visibility in some areas. Visibility down to a mile in Fort Lauderdale, 2 miles in Hialeah, including downtown Miami at this time. And high temperatures are going to stay on the chilly side in the 50s all day long. Your complete outlook for the weekend coming up in a few minutes. South Florida, it's been a chilly one, and Miami's been stuck in the 40s and 50s for over 51 hours as of 8 o'clock this morning, and temperatures remain pretty chilly at this time. It's 48 in Fort Lauderdale, 50 in Miami, 50 in Kendall, to 59 in Key West, and it's 51 in Pembroke Pines. The wind out of the cold air direction, it's been a little stronger, so it's felt colder around mainland South Florida. Humidity levels still high, and visibility has dropped to about 2 miles in downtown Miami because of the low clouds, and those clouds will produce a very fine mist. We're not looking at measurable rain across the region, but the mist to continue until they clear, heading into late afternoon and early evening. So at least through midday, it'll be cloudy with some fog and mist. It does seem like we'll see breaks here and there around sections of the Florida Keys, Florida Straits, but tonight we're going to definitely see more clearing, and that will set the stage for even colder readings tomorrow morning. Widespread 40s across Broward and Miami-Dade, feeling more like the low 40s when you combine the wind. Throughout the day, it'll be gusty at times, but at least it should be much brighter heading into the weekend for both days. Sunday, we won't have a big chill. We'll still be pretty cool, and then we start to warm up in the afternoon as high pressure starts to break down and we get more of a return of an onshore flow. Small craft advisory in effect. Threat of rip currents high area beaches. Seas building 5 to 7 feet up to 9 feet in the Gulf Stream. Biscayne Bay at a moderate chop. For the Florida Keys, there's a small craft advisory in effect. North-northwest winds 15 to 25 knots, and coastal waters are turning rough. The next tide cycle will be coming up in the next hour at 10 o'clock in Fort Lauderdale, 10:26 for Key West. So for today, clouds and mist, PM breaks of sun, but take a look at the highs, staying chilly in the 50s, low 60s for the Florida Keys. And by tonight, clouds clear and it gets even colder. The forecast low for Miami 46, 45 in Fort Lauderdale to 54 in Key West. And as we look ahead into the weekend, it promises to be really nice, especially on Sunday. Picture perfect, should be comfortable, pleasant, and dry for next week. That's your 7 on 7 forecast. Day, it's also cloudy and misty across South Florida. We're expecting temperatures to remain chilly the entire day. We're going to get some late day clearing, and that will set up shop for a colder night. And the cold air will actually peak tomorrow morning with widespread lows in the 40s, feeling colder with the wind. So it feels like temperatures tomorrow morning will be in the lower 40s, and we'll have a cool day. It'll be gusty at times, but it promises to be brighter this weekend for both days. Heading into Sunday, we're going to have less of a chill. It'll be partly sunny and pleasant throughout the afternoon as the wind starts to veer more off the ocean due to high pressure breaking down. Your boating forecast has a small craft advisory in effect. Northwest winds 10 to 20 knots. Frequent gusts up to 30 possible. Seas building 5 to 7 feet. Biscayne Bay, though, at a moderate chop. For the Florida Keys, there's a small craft advisory in effect. Seas beyond the reef building 3 to 6 feet. And the next tide cycle will be in the next hour. Low tide at 10 o'clock for Fort Lauderdale. Highs today only in the upper 50s to low 60s. Clouds, mist. We're going to get PM breaks of sun. And then tonight, clouds clear, and temperatures will drop down into the 40s, 50s for the Florida Keys. And you're on your extended outlook, South Florida. At least it should be nice over the weekend. We start to warm up back to typical, comfortable values next week. And that's your 7 on 7 forecast. Good morning, South Florida. It is cloudy, misty out there, but also cold. So if you're heading out, keep in mind you'll need to layer up. We will see breaks here and there, but late afternoon into the early evening as skies gradually clear out. So we're going to stay with these periods of clouds. Right now, Fort Lauderdale down to 48, 49 in Pompano, 51 in Hollywood. Hialeah reporting 49 degrees. 50 in Miami, to 50 in Kendall. And then we head south into Homestead, 52 degrees. Florida Keys in the widespread 50s now. Isla Mirada 54, 59 in Key West, with the wind stronger out of the northwest, and it'll certainly be a factor heading into the overnight. So as skies clear late, that will allow even colder air to be felt. And then that supply starts to get cut off, but by the second half of the weekend. So we're going to get another push of cold air tonight. Lows will drop down into the basically mid 40s, and it'll feel more like the lower 40s. Throughout the day, it'll be generally cool, but a lot brighter. And we're going to have sunshine, especially throughout the day, Saturday and Sunday. And on Sunday, we're going to get the return of an onshore flow. So we're going to have less of a chill, but it should be pleasant in the afternoon. And that's going to set the stage for highs to range in the mid to upper 70s, cool lows in the upper 50s to low 60s heading into next week. So certainly a much more comfortable pattern in the days ahead. Small craft advisory is in effect. Northwest winds 10 to 20 knots, frequent gusts up to 30 possible. Biscayne Bay at a moderate chop. It is turning rough in the Florida Keys with a northwest wind 15 to 25 knots. And we're going to get a low tide cycle in the 10 o'clock hour all around for Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and Key West. Highs today in the 50s and 60s, so you'll need the sweaters, jackets all day long. Tonight too. And yes, the forecast low for Miami at 46, 45 in Fort Lauderdale to 54 in Key West. Your extended outlook does call for this chilly stretch to continue. Heading into next week, at least we'll have some cool mornings and mild afternoons. And that's your 7 on 7 forecast.